everyone, welcome to another episode of the Legal Bytes Newscast. In this video, we're talking about some of the changes in drug laws across the country. This video will probably get demonetized because of the subject matter, but hey, I found it interesting and I figured you might too. We talk about the law on this channel, and this is an update on a change in laws which has the potential to impact a lot of people. And the reason I found this interesting is because it seems to suggest that overall attitudes might be shifting across the United States on the subject of criminalizing drug use. Specifically, this week, 4 states legalized the recreational use of marijuana. Those are New Jersey, Arizona, Montana, and South Dakota. Also, Mississippi voted to allow the use of cannabis for medical use. Going further, Oregon became the first state to formally legalize the possession of small amounts of hard drugs. This is including drugs like cocaine, heroin, oxycodone, and methamphetamines. And on top of that, the District of Columbia also legalized the use of psychedelic mushrooms. After this election, this means that roughly a third of the United States have eased their criminal consequences of marijuana use. Considering the fact that it was illegal to use marijuana recreationally in all states until 2012, this appears to be some pretty fast momentum. Obviously, that means that 2/3 of the country still have not followed that trend, and it's also important to remember that federally marijuana is still illegal to use, and obviously the same is true of the harder drugs that have just become legalized in Oregon, for example. But looking at the new laws in Oregon and DC, this is interesting. While Oregon wasn't the first in legalizing recreational use of marijuana, that was Colorado and Washington, it was not far behind. Recreational use of marijuana was legalized in Oregon in 2014 by a ballot measure. And this new measure that legalizes the possession of small amounts of much harder drugs has the potential to be either a total outlier from the rest of the country, or the first of many states to ease those criminal consequences for those same types of drugs. Proponents of Oregon's measure say that the change in the law promotes rehabilitation over incarceration. Obviously, addiction is a huge problem for many, and many have said that for a long time that harsh drug laws tend to disproportionately affect people of color. Proponents of the measure also say that decriminalizing addictive drugs like this gives addicts a greater chance of pulling themselves out of their addiction and, more importantly, out of what tends to be a cycle of drug-related criminality. Keep in mind that this law allows for small amounts of these drugs. Larger quantities can result in misdemeanor charges, and quantities that are large enough to constitute potential sales of the drugs can result in felony charges.
I'm doing the time of my life.
Those are important distinctions, and sometimes details that can get overlooked by many reacting to the change in the law. And again, federally, they're still outlawed. But what it shows is that the law is aimed at easing the punishment of those who are acting under the grips of addiction, but still punishing those who are feeding that addiction. This is a really interesting change, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in Oregon now that these laws have eased. Other states may or may not follow Oregon based on what effects come after this in Oregon. If it looks like addiction rates go down and there seems to be an overall reduction in other crime rates, maybe Oregon is onto something. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm definitely very curious to hear people's thoughts on this one, so if you have an opinion, drop it in the comments. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share it. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel so you can get more content like this. Thanks!